Growers a green leaf. I splayed the leaf over the intake mark and tapped my throat. Spores for filters. Roots in seams. Quiet work. Jewelry makers clear chips of crystal. I sang the seam finder pitch and set a chip into the drawn fence line so it shivered. In the dust. Find the note. Weaken the burning. Cut the metal smoothly. Cooks 3 spice seeds. I poured the seeds into a palm and tipped them toward the ration crates. One tribe had lifted earlier. I drew a circle around the symbols of BIOSTAB and agriops I'd scraped in the dirt, turned their slurry into fuel for our legs. Flyers a winged pattern drawn with 2 fingers. I traced arcs that cut across their floodlights, and cameras move in pairs, or trios only. No one goes alone. Grief rose like a wave, sudden and heavy. I let it crest and pass through. I set the small carved stone, the one I made for my children, on the map's edge where the river met the ground and pressed my brow to the back of my wrist. A short, honest tone left me and came back. I remember. Then I stood up straighter. The circle watched. I gave a final shape with my hands, to open palms over the egg pebble, wider than any weapon. This is the reason. We protect. Night put a lid on the valley. The Helios lights came on bright and sterile, flattening shadows. Wires unspooled and snaked across the ground. The air hummed at the wrong frequency, unrelenting and sharp to my ears. On the shelf, I counted with the flyers by touch, wrist to wrist, pulse to pulse, and sent a quiet number into the dark. 4,000 heartbeats to the first move. The old panic from Earth rattled its chain in my ribs. I breathed with the river until my hands were steady. Down below, a man slapped a crate and shouted, "Where are my EMP nets? Sector C is exposed." Why is Sector C exposed? I marked their rhythm, patrol loop, drone sweep. The lag between orders and action. I timed our entrance for when human bodies dip. Second watch when the mind reaches. For coffee it does not have. Diamond rain began as a prickling in the skin, then grew certain. The first shard kissed my forearm, and went soft under my heat. We will take your anger and aim it. I told the storm with my thoughts. I sent assignments in tones the teams had memorized before the end of the meeting. Left team, a narrow nasal call that cuts through wind intakes filters. Choke the breath, and 3 wing flicks to match the count. Right team, a deep note from the chest. Fuel lines, lowest point, spill without fire, and a palm pushed down, fingers spread, flood them quietly. Scouts a quick high trill to ask their eyes, and 2 fast taps on the temple. Cameras first. Cutters, the seam finder hum-shaped, against my teeth and a fist closed. Then opened. Slow locks remember open. I skimmed the river where its glow had bruised, and reached the fence. It hummed like a note, out of key. I pressed the blade the maker had tuned and sang its note into the metal. The electric field stuttered and dropped, for 10 breaths, long enough to slice a large hole in the wire. "Thank you," I told the blade with a thumb rub along its spine and slipped through the gap. The scent of plastic and scorched plants hit my nose. A drone drifted overhead, I swiveling. I shaped my shoulders to give it the wrong silhouette, then broke my heat with a quick roll so the camera saw a pattern it couldn't match. It drifted on, confused. At the intake stacks, 3 techs argued. "Makes no sense. We calibrate once per." "Do it again," the lead snapped, yanking a panel. I landed behind the ductwork and set my palm to the warm metal of the system. Fans chopped the sky into a mechanical wind that hid my movements. I slid a skyglass shard, still warm from the storm, into the seam of metal plates covering the filtration systems, and hummed the seam finder note. The locks forgot their job. The panel came free. A grower slipped in beside me with a pouch of spore fiber. We packed the edges and breathed low. The fibers woke, swelled, and sealed like living cork. "Filter failure," one tech said. Numbers ran backward on his screen. "What the—" "Reset," the lead said. The reset did nothing. The machine coughed and sagged. I rested my forehead against the metal, desperate for this to work. "Sleep," I told it. "You've worked enough." On the far side of the pad, a white flicker, then orange. Right team had made the spill without flame. A third of the site would be dry soon. No fuel, no lift. I cut west. Specimen containment. Stamped along a row of boxes. In a font that made my jaw hurt. 2 guards leaned on rifles. Bored. You smell that? One said through his helmet. Like ozone, and what is that? Mint. The cook's chimney smoke was drifting. Exactly where we meant it to. Dogs would lose the thread of our scents. Cameras would soon strobe at the wrong frequencies. I crouched behind a crate of zip ties and listened to my own breath. Bored will switch. To cruel without warning, I held my body still. Sector C is still reading dirty, the clipped female voice carried thin through the night. Somebody patched the software. Oh, I'll patch it, the guard muttered, and jabbed a cage with his rifle butt. A rumble in my chest wanted to rise. I pressed my tongue to the roof of my mouth and swallowed the heat until my breathing calmed. The animal razor was a shadow at my left, palms already open. I brushed his wrist twice. Second storm, not yet. He gave me a single, patient tap. Heard. The storm decided to speak louder. Shards hissed. Armor rang. The noise became the room we worked in. I sent one word on a steady, carrying note known to everything we had prepared, moved. Shield bearers opened lanes and closed them again, catching shots on plates of molded sky glass that hardened with a single breath's and command. Blades found joints that incapacitated but did not kill knees, elbows, wrists. When we had to end a life, we did it fast. And with clean hands. Scouts split attention. With planted heat and tuned stones that messed with the camera's frequencies. Cooks poured the enemy's bricks of nutrition into kettles and crushed herbs in with their thumbs. Bowls moved hand to hand and brought strength back to our wings. Growers threaded an adhesive root sap into vehicle seams. Tires would not roll again until time forgot what had happened here. I flattened on a Cums van and listened. Through the hole, English crawled through. The metal, repeat, anomalous interference on 2.4 and 5.8. Switching to, I found the bandwidth by instinct, and sang one small wrong note into the shell. The room below erupted in swearing. Where is Sector C? A woman shouted. Why is Sector C never where it's supposed to be? I pressed a smile into the metal, and swiftly flew away. We took the cages together. The animal razor led with his hands open, and his breath soft and even. I opened locks. With the hum, the metal obeys. Doors opened, eyes blinked. We showed everything frightened, that we were not here to devour their fear. Anything that could move, moved. Anything that would follow, we led. A soldier rounded the module and saw me, straight on. He lifted his rifle with the intent to end a life. I did not sing mercy at him, and I did not sing hate. I stepped into his space, broke his aim at the elbow, and knocked him out with a blow to the jaw. He would wake, he would go home. Having learned a lesson in life, never underestimate that which you have never encountered. I sent the falling command pull back now, loud and sharp. Teams of Aurelian peeled away like pages turned. The storm gave us one last bright sheet of shards and then thinned. The last ship lifted, with smoke along its edges and none of the confidence it had when it arrived. It stuttered away. Heat shivered off the ground. Canvas hung in shreds. Tools lay everywhere. My hands were stiff and sore. My wings were frayed at the tips. My chest heaved the way an animal's does when it has run past the point of exhaustion. The flavor of metal sat bitter. At the back of my tongue, the mint-sweet scent from the cook's ministrations tamps it down slightly.